feel better, more healthy without even starting on broccoli, for example. Right? Yeah, I see. He's saying it's a healthy seminar without even talking about the health stuff yet. That only goes to show there's more than one principle to health. It's not just the food you eat. It's the food you eat for sure, but it's a whole lot more. That's why George Burns can live to 100 years old smoking a cigar every day of his life. Because there's more principles going on in his life than just simply the smoking. He had other stuff that brought his longevity up, and so much so. Someone else had a hand up? Yes, please. Healthy spirituality as opposed to harmful or toxic spirituality, yes. You'll find a little bit more in the workbook on that as well, and also in the book as well. Healthy versus toxic spirituality. As a matter of fact, we're ending into a period of world history where toxic spirituality will be more pervasive. And so whenever you see something that's coercive, going against people's consciences, that's toxic spirituality. Anybody else? Yes? The connection between spirituality and health, and we looked at the MRI machines and workout and the brain, like depressed, not all depressed people. You cannot say this is it, but there's a tendency for people who are having healthy spirituality, those people will have less tendency for depression. Doesn't happen everywhere, but there's a statistical chance that you're better off being a spiritual person. Anyone else? Okay. So I could say that about covers it, but it doesn't cover it all, but we're going to continue on as we go along here. So here's one thing that I was trying to get across from the earlier morning session. If we could just go by this one rule, it would change our lives forever. Just this one rule. Everything we eat passes through this question. Does it come from a tree, bush, vine, or garden? In other words, does it grow that way? If it doesn't, then it's less healthy. And we talked about being refined foods and then minimally refined foods. And if we just stick with the unrefined and minimally refined foods, then often that could save a life and give us 36 extra years of life too, just by doing that alone. So that's quite amazing right there. And then, I don't know if you can see that very well, but this is put out by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, a growing wave of influence in the world. There's now a number of different countries in the world that have their colleges of lifestyle medicine too, inspired by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which, by the way, was started by a Seventh-day Adventist coming out of the Loma Linda a long time ago. Fruits and vegetables, so take your plate. Half of it should be fruit and vegetables. The other half would be mixed up with plant proteins and whole grains, and then you add water to that in between meals, and you got yourself high-octane fuel. It's pretty well as simple as that. Now, that kind of begs the question then. If that's all I'm eating, look at all the things I'm not eating that I really want to eat. And this is the question that we have to address. But to help us along, this here happens to be real blood vessels that have been photographed. That's what they really look like under a microscope. And they're healthy, relatively healthy. Here is unhealthy. Does anyone see the difference? Just look very closely here. Healthy, unhealthy. They're blocked, right? There's plaque, there's cholesterol, okay? Broccoli, potato chips. Kale, hamburgers, ice cream. So you get the idea, right? Okay, so you see that there's a difference there. So this is a real life difference. There's a real life difference between it all. Now, I've oversimplified it because there's more to life than the food you eat and how that affects our body. Stress also affects our bodies as well. So it's not just the food. You understand this. There's so much more, but it starts with the food. And we're building, that's why we call it the full power plan. We want you to have a life of full power where each letter happens to represent. a lifestyle principle. So we're going through some of the chapters of the book. I'm just kind of highlighting a little bit. We can't do it all, but we're doing as much as we can. It's always nice to kind of hear it, not just simply read it, for those people who are more auditory or visual. Now, the action step that we asked you to do last night, which was hard for you to do if you didn't have the workbook, do you remember what the action step was that you could do perhaps even tonight or tomorrow? Take your vitality assessment. Okay, you have it on the back table there, 6 pages, nice colors. Page 3 of that, I think, you got 25 questions. That's what it looks like, thank you. And so you can do that, and if those of you online, simply go to fullpower1.com and you can download it yourself. And you can print it out and you can fill it out. And so at some point, I want to make it a fillable PDF, and you can do it all online, and it spits back your answer. Someday I'd like to be able to do that. I just need some techie people to help me with that. But right now, you can do this when it's printed. And that's how you feel, but what you do, go to the next assessments on page 9, and this is taking a look at your habits as they relate to the principles of health. And there's 10 habits attached to each principle. A total of 90 habits, 9 principles. And so in the book and in the workbook, the second L, lovify your life, is the first L, and the second L is launch your plan. The second L gets 20 points, everything else gets 10 points. Because launching your plan is what makes the difference, other than just simply knowing stuff. And so now you add the 10 points to the 10 points for launch your plan, you get 100 points altogether. So 90 habits, 100 points that you could possibly get. And if you get over 50, you get a bronze. If you get over 75, you get a silver. If you get over 85, you get a gold. And so we try to do this to motivate us. We're kind of gamifying habits is what we're trying to do. And so that's the idea there. So I'll just go through that, keep on going, skip over that. There's actually 4 approaches, or 4, I guess you could say, attitudes toward changing our lives. A lot of people don't want to change their lives. They're happy with the way it is. Or they want to, but they can't because they're addicted to junk food or drugs or something, and they want to, but they just need help. So for this, this is at the last section of the book, but entry-level casual. You find out some new habit that you could do or some new truth, and you casually put it into your life. No plan, you were inspired that day, and so you did something about it. That's plan A. Plan B, you take 1 habit per principle. There's 9 principles, FULLPOWER. Each of them have 10 habits. Take 1. Take 1 habit. Drinking more water, and to a specific amount of water, depending on your body weight. 1 habit for that principle. And then 1 habit for prioritize high-octane fuel. Don't do it all at once. Just start with the easiest one and get yourself a victory. Feel good about that, and then go on to the next step. It could take years. That's okay, as long as you're growing. Don't think of yourself as holding off your happiness until you're perfect. Be happy at every step you make toward your goal. That's so you're happy along the journey. So that would be plan B, you could say, 1 habit per principle. Or some people want to go plan C, 1 principle per month. So this month of May, I'm going to work on my purpose in life. Everything I do, everything I read, I watch a YouTube lecture, video, whatever, got to find my purpose. And then next month, June, I'm going to work on the U, my unleashing spirituality. Some people want to do it that way, whatever way you want. Now, if you happen to be highly motivated and have the time, and the doctor just told you that you're going to die in 3 months unless you do something, all right, if you're in that category, or you're an addict and you can't just simply stop at 1 potato chip or 1 bite of a chocolate or something like that, then you know that you need to do all or nothing. And 1/3 of the personalities in our country are that. I am actually that. So in that case, you can go intense, an intense LM, lifestyle medicine therapy, and then you can really give it all you got. And for that, it's really better if you come to a lifestyle medicine program, like at, say, Silver Hills, or some of the other places where they actually kind of lead you through for a week or for 2 weeks. Someday, maybe God willing, I'll be doing this, where people would fly to a certain city or town, and then we take care of you for a week or 2 weeks, and then we send you on your way with a plan. So eventually I want to be able to do that. And maybe even study it for the PhD, I don't know. So that's where we are right now. So we open up our full power treasure chest and we find one more principle. The letter O stands for omit what is harmful, and this is the hardest one. Sometimes I call it the science of willpower, why breaking unhealthy habits is so hard. How many times have you wanted to break an unhealthy habit? And sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. Same with me. Well, I'll start with this story. I was learning guitar. A number of years ago, I used to live in Newfoundland. And my wife and I were going down the road, and I said, I really wish I could learn guitar. And she said, well, you happen to know this guy's name is Eric. He teaches guitar. He was once the leader of a Salvation Army band. And he knew every instrument. He even played the trombone before the Queen of England. And he could teach guitar, he could teach piano, he could do anything musically. And so my wife said, just knock on his door. We happened to be going for a jog that day, morning, whatever it was, and I knocked on his door. I said, Eric, can you teach me guitar? He said, yes, come next week. So we're going through these guitar lessons, and after guitar lessons, because we're friends, we sit in his kitchen, and he pulls out a cigarette. And he knows it's not healthy, but hey, we're friends. He'll smoke in front of me. Doesn't matter, even though he knew I was a pastor. And he said these words. I'll never forget them. These are the exact words that he said. He called my name. He said, Aaron, I've never loved or hated something so much in my life as this cigarette. Those were the exact words that he said. I have never loved or hated something so much in my life as this cigarette. And I think I kind of knew what he meant. He's articulating the most powerful insight in the world. It's the battle between short-term pleasures and long-term goals. As a matter of fact, the success of your life determines where you fall in this formula. Short-term pleasures or long-term goals. If we live a life of short-term pleasures, then the life that we want for those long-term goals will disappear if we just live for short-term pleasures. If we want to have those long-term goals, we need to find a way to resist the short-term pleasures, most of the short-term pleasures. And so that was what he particularly thought of. Even, what's her name? Famous lady singer, Christina Aguilera, is that her name? She even had a song 20 years ago called Save Me From Myself. And she was articulating something in that title, which I thought was quite something. Does this remind you of anybody? Anybody relate to this one? That's me. That's so many people. What do I choose? I can choose the set of salad on one side and chocolate cake with a cherry on top on the other side. What's your decision? And you know very well that you're at like a Y in the road and say, I really should have the salad, but I really want the cake. And this is a decision we make like 1,000 times, maybe dozens of times in a day, but 1,000 times in a lifetime. And those decisions that we make determine how we turn out, whether it be successful or not. When I was studying this and saw this difference between short-term pleasures and long-term goals, someone said, articulated it this way: we have to choose between what we want now versus what we want most. Most often what we want most isn't what we want in the immediate. What we want most is to feel fit and strong and healthy and powerful and happy and joyful and successful. That's what we want most. What we want now, we want potato chips and ice cream and chocolate bars. And, so you can kind of catch the discrepancy. Well, in the Bible, it talks about that too. It's the battle between the flesh and the spirit. Interestingly enough, just read Romans chapter 7. Now, what we're talking about more right now is the full power, And we'll talk about the power of the full power later on, like tomorrow, and we've already addressed the P at least already. But the full power happens to be the answer to the struggles that we have between the flesh and the spirit. It's the F-U and the L-L. That's basically the answer. So if that's what you're looking for, then you can say, yeah, I got it, now I'll go home. And this is it right here. But let me go into a little bit more. We'll start off with this TED Talk on YouTube done by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, just to kind of put this into science. Back in 1996 in November, he took a X-ray, I think that's an X-ray, or some kind of imaging system, of a blood vessel. On the right, on the left you see is narrow. But on the right, you see the same area? It's just full. It's just wonderful. And so often, at the time when Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who was once an Olympic athlete, became a cardiovascular surgeon. And he was saying that I can get people to reverse their heart disease simply by giving up meat and dairy and junk food and refined foods and just have more vegetables and fruits and nuts and grains and legumes and only water between meals. He was saying this, and he was showing it with the patients that he had. But he kept on hearing from scientists, fellow scientists, show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. Never mind the stories. Never mind all that. Show me the science. And he says, here's the science. Here's the science. Same area of the body, same blood vessel, and you can see the difference between narrow and regular sized blood vessel. And that's the difference. So that means blood, the patient's heart health was improved and heart disease risk was reduced. That is very obvious from what we can see here. And so he wanted to show that. So he wrote a book called Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. The revolutionary, scientifically proven, nutrition-based, and then he puts in a word which will throw most doctors off. Can you see the word from where you're sitting? Cure. I would never say that word cure. He would, because he's a doctor who studied it. I can't say that word because doctors will look at me and say, what, cure? Don't be taught. You just lost credibility, my friend, by saying the word cure. But he has the audacity to say, I am telling you, I have found a cure. And the cure is whole foods, plant-based eating, and basically didn't say it, full power. He didn't know. He doesn't even know about the book Full Power yet, I don't think. Someday you'll find out. And so he's basically saying the full power principles is the cure for heart disease. And then he says, but you have to get serious. You have to get radical. All this disease that people have needs to be addressed, fought with absolute commitment. And so he says, and you can read you can just go to the YouTube, he says, no oil. And he said, just in case you haven't heard me, no oil. And he calls that out more than once. Don't fry in oil, don't cook in oil, don't bake oil, don't put oil in your recipes. Get it out of there if you want to help your heart. This is what he's saying. And then he has the nerve, the audacity to say even olive oil. Even olive oil. And then he says, and I know it's controversial because there are studies that say cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil actually helps your heart. There's studies that say that all over the place. And he's saying no. He says, which goes against a lot of other advice out there, the so-called good fats. The reality is oils are extremely low in terms of nutritive value. They contain no fiber, no minerals, 100% fat calories, 120 calories per tablespoon, both the mono, unsaturated, and the saturated fat contained in oils is harmful to the endothelium, the innermost lining of the artery. And that injury is the gateway to vascular disease. So, how dare he say no oil? Because we cook in oil like every day. But he's saying oil is a major contributor to heart disease. Why? Because he sees the arteries. He's a surgeon. He sees the arteries. He's seeing what's happening, and he's actually saying, in the lining of the arteries, there's something called the endothelial lining. It's the innermost lining of the artery, and it's slippery. It's nice and slippery, so blood can just go on through. But when you have oil, it has an effect, a chemical effect. It's not just like putting oil in your engine. No, it's not like that. It creates a chemical change so that little holes, little tiny microscopic holes occur in the inner lining of your artery. And in those holes, cholesterol gets lodged in there, and then it builds up and it builds up, and soon you get a heart attack. And so he's saying none whatsoever, but especially if you have any heart disease whatsoever. So if you have high blood pressure, if you have heart disease, if you've had a heart attack, then try this, absolutely zero oil. The only oil to have is the oil that exists naturally in the olive. Eat an olive. Eat a nut. Eat some seeds. You get your oil that way, the natural way, not extracted, using a manufacturer's extraction process to get the oil. The rule is the same. Eat foods as grown. Food doesn't grow as oil. Food grows as olives. Food grows as nuts. Food grows as seeds, but not the seed oil or the olive oil. And so again, if you want to get the most effect of the treatment, have only food the way it was grown, unrefined, completely unrefined, and you just see what happens in your body. Now, I recognize it's hard to take. I like oil. The more the better. Just put salt on there. I'd have deep-fried cardboard if it was salted. It would probably taste pretty good, you know. So lots of fiber too, maybe. The whole point is, if we can just try and experiment for a week, just see. Anyone can usually give up something for a week. Just see what happens. See what happens. I can tell you that in the British Columbia Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we have put on, and we'll be putting on again in June, something called 1 Week to Wellness. 1 Week to Wellness. Last year we did it, we called 7 Days in Paradise at Camp Hope, modeled after what they're doing in Ontario. And in 7 days, maybe 8 days, 6 of the type 2 diabetes clients that came were off their medicine in 7 days. But they had to get radical with the food they're eating. When I say radical, I just mean eat what's healthy. Because what we're eating today, maybe not you, but generally speaking in our population, it's called normal. But what's normal is absolutely toxic to our system. We can't go by what they're doing. That's not the standard to go by. If you want to eat like them, we'll die like them, type of thing. And so keep that in mind if you wish. And so, but we do run into a problem, of course. How is it that we can know things about what to do and what to eat, but we don't do the things? What's going on there? Eric, who taught me guitar, he's the one who really articulated it well. There's nothing I love or hate so much as a cigarette. I love it, short-term pleasure, but I hate it. It's killing me in the long term. I love it, but I hate it. And this is the situation that a lot of us find ourselves in. So let's see if I can help explain this with Mary. This is Mary's willpower tank. Because often the answer says you got to have more willpower. Let's talk about willpower. Mary is a wife and mother of 2 children. She gets up in the morning and she feeds her children breakfast. She drives them to school. She goes to work. Her husband goes to work. In the morning she gets up and there's a donut on the counter. And she loves donuts. But she resists the donut because she wants to be healthy. She loves the taste of donut, the nice white flour, the really gooiness of it all. But in resisting the donut, Mary happens to, when I did this with Keynote. This is on PowerPoint, so I'm not really getting the effects that I want you to see. But the whole point is she's going through her day. Every time she resists something, it's like it makes her willpower tank go down. So she has less willpower left over for the next temptation. It's actually called ego depletion. You can read about this in the science. And it actually, to be able to resist something requires a lot of energy in the cortex, in cerebral cortex. When we do something on habit, takes no resistance, just easy to do, it's like 1/20th, like 5% of the energy is needed just to carry on a habit that we don't even think about. But if we're trying to resist the habit, it uses up 20 times more, 20 times, 5% up to 100%, more glucose in the system, using it up. It's just like it takes more energy to resist. But it's not just about resisting. The very act of making a decision uses energy in the brain. That's why a lot of the blood and the energy goes to the brain. Small organ, but takes up a lot of energy to run. Why? Because thinking takes energy. Just thinking, planning, deciding this way, deciding that way. That act of decision takes up energy, and every time we use up our energy, it's like we have a willpower tank, like a gas tank, and we're using up a little bit of gas all day long. And so Mary goes to work, and there's a jar of chocolates on the front counter of the secretary, receptionist, and she resists those. She uses up 10% more willpower. And then she's on the phone and doing emails, and she's making decisions all day long. 40% more willpower gone down. Now she's only down to, 60, 50% willpower. And then she goes to lunch, and her friend brings out the donut and the chocolates for lunch, and she resists those because she was offered to have some. She says no. But to say no took energy. And now she only has about 30% willpower left in her tank. And then she makes that last decision of the day, and then she's down to 10%. And then on the way out the door, she has to make a last decision with the secretary going out the door. She's now down to 0. She gets home. She sees that donut that she resisted on the counter at breakfast time. And what does she do? She eats the donut. Why? Why does she eat the donut? She knows she doesn't want to have the donut. She knows it's not going to be any good for her, but she eats the donut because she was depending upon willpower, and she didn't have the willpower to resist. She used up her willpower all day long making decisions, and that's why you may find it's harder to make resistance decisions later in the day. Have you found this at all? Have you found that you'd rather have junk food more in the evening than in the morning for breakfast? Have you found this? This is partially why. It's partially why. Well, let's go on with this. So she used up her willpower. This book called Salt, Sugar, and Fat, How the Food Giants Hooked Us, is a rather insightful book. There's actually a part 2 of this book as well. I don't completely blame Mary. As a matter of fact, I don't blame Mary all that much because she's living in an environment that is created for her to not resist. Her environment is just built for her to grab the fastest food possible. It's already prepared for her. She's busy at work anyway. She's just exhausted with the kids. She's just going to need to do all she can to get by. And sometimes getting by means having fast food. And the food giants, McDonald's, you named all the fast foods, they know this. They know this. And so if you go to Chicago to Hamburger University, and yes, it exists, they have scientists there. They'll teach McDonald's managers. By the way, just to let you know, I grew up on McDonald's. If it weren't for me and my friends, McDonald's would have gone bankrupt years ago. So I understand this. And so they hire scientists who know the brain, your own brain, more than you do. The pleasure centers of the brain, and they work on the hamburgers and whatever they have they're selling to get what they call the bliss point. that feeling and taste on the tongue, so that it creates an addictive pathway in the pleasure centers of the brain. And they know that. They get paid big bucks to make food, so-called, it's really substances that are called food, correspond to the pleasure centers of your brain so that you pay them money, and you pay them more and more money, and they get rich and we get sicker. Isn't it interesting, though? The richer the fast food industry gets off of our health, the richer the pharmaceutical industry gets. You know why? I think the pharmaceutical industry must be very appreciative of the junk food industry, because the pharmaceutical industry is making a lot of money off us too, because we go them to get the drugs to relieve us of the pain we got from all the junk food we had. So I don't know they're actually working together. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but hey, I tell you, there's something out there that is not working on our behalf. So we're on our own. We're on our own on this. We got to help each other out here as we go along. And so sugar, salt, and fat, they drives craving. It adds richness and it spikes reward in the system, the brain. There's so much more we could say, but I won't say it. So have you ever noticed, though, that non-addictive foods are designed by nature? Addictive foods are designed by man. Have you noticed this? Have you ever gone to an AA meeting and they would say, "Hello, I'm John." Everybody says, "Hi, John. Here's my story." Or you might go to an NA meeting, Narcotics Anonymous, or even an Overeaters Anonymous meeting. You always begin by saying, "Hello, my name is," and you never give your last name. Everybody says hello, and then you tell your story of pain. But have you ever gone to a Broccoli Eaters Anonymous meeting before? Have you noticed? I have never noticed these. You look it up, you won't see one. How about someone sitting in a group in the basement of a church, and he's depressingly say, the first time I had a kale, now I'm an addict, I'm a kale addict. Have you ever heard this before? No. The only types of foods that are addictive are refined foods, whether it be alcohol or cigarettes or drugs or junk food. These are made by men. They're taking from nature. They're putting through some kind of process, some machinery of some kind, and it comes out refined and just the taste to die for. And I mean die. So that's what it's like. And so addictive foods are designed by people, and non-addictive foods are designed by nature. So keep that in mind. But it goes further. It goes further than this. I'm getting this now from Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson. Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson now has one of the most successful weight loss programs in the world. And she's a neuroscientist herself. And she points this out. Take a look at the brain's, a normal brain, and I want you to take a look at the dopamine receptors. Dopamine, what is dopamine? What's that? Dopamine. You heard of dopamine? We call it a pleasure hormone. It's actually, to be more specific, the anticipation of pleasure hormone. It's the motivation hormone. We need dopamine even to live. So dopamine is healthy, but too much of it, of course, is not healthy. And so dopamine is the active hormone when it comes to addiction. Like we're anticipating that taste, that cigarette, that alcohol, that hamburger, that cheeseburger, whatever it may be. And a normal brain without that looks like this. But now the brain of someone on cocaine, look at the difference inside there. You see those two areas inside? And interestingly enough, someone who is obese has a similar brain pattern to someone who's on cocaine. And they don't even touch cocaine. They don't even touch drugs or alcohol. It's the food. The pleasure systems in the brain are the same for food as for alcohol, as for cocaine, as for heroin. Now, there's a lot of differences, so if you know about this, please excuse me for being overly simplistic. But the idea is that the mechanisms are similar. And so what we want to do is sort of bypass that, see what we can do, and so we can understand what's going on. So let me help you understand as best I can. Habits are centered mainly in the basal ganglia of the brain. Habits. There's a lot of intricate things that go into creating a habit, good habit or bad habit. A lot of it has to do with memory and recall and all that kind of stuff in the basal ganglia of the brain. The basal ganglia of the brain doesn't use that much energy for it to run. It's a habit. Now, the power of habit from Charles Duhigg says habits are automatic behaviors traced to a part of the brain called the basal ganglia, a portion of the brain associated with emotions, patterns, and memories. Emotions, patterns, and memories. Emotions. Boredom. Depression. Feeling unloved. Stress. Being bullied. Emotions. And sometimes we come home and we just need comfort. A lot of comfort. And we try to treat an emotional situation with a substance. It's not a food problem you have. Therefore, to treat the condition doesn't require food. It requires something more psychological, but it's not that easy. And so here's what Charles Duhigg is saying. Habits are in the basal ganglia, but think of Mary and her decisions that she made all day. But decisions, not habits, decisions, on the other hand, are made in the prefrontal cortex. When a behavior becomes a habit, we stop using our decision-making skills and instead we're functioning on autopilot, which is wonderful if it's a good habit, and it's horrible if it's a bad habit. You don't want to have a bad habit running on autopilot. But that's kind of the way it is with many people. And so the other interesting part is that it's easier when something is a habit. And that's our challenge, to make the good habits, to make the good behaviors habits. And before you can do that, it requires some work and some decision making. Decision making takes up 20 times more energy than doing the very same activity when it's a habit. Am I making sense at all? Okay. Think of Mary and her willpower tank. And so what we want to do is get on autopilot with the good habits and get ourselves off of autopilot with the bad habits. That's what we want to be able to do. Here's what not to do. You're looking at, what's that, a Danish she's looking at there? Something, white flour. Just stay away from white flour. Save yourself. Stay away from white flour. And she's saying, I don't want to eat this. It's got sugar in there. It's got white flour. It's refined food. And so she says to herself, I must not eat this. I must not eat this. And she's trying to convince herself. She's arguing with herself. I must not eat this. I must not eat this. And every time she says that, she's burning up more glucose in her brain, etc. Prefrontal cortex is what she's trying to run on. You can't do it by willpower. Willpower will last only for so long. It's not a long-term strategy. Willpower is not a long-term strategy. We need some external power coming in to help us to make those decisions and turn them into habits. So you start with, what foods will advance me toward my long-term goals? And as soon as you say that, somebody will say, oh, don't be a party pooper. Don't talk to me about long-term goals. I'm hungry now. I want to get the cigarette now. But that is where it starts. You start thinking about, what do I really want? How do I see myself? Oh, I see myself being able to run a marathon or whatever it may be. I see myself, being thin or whatever it may be, being strong. Now, here's a guy, he reminds me of Eric with the cigarette. But only it's not cigarettes. He's looking at that, what's that drink? Is that apple juice? Probably not. Maybe it's whiskey. Whatever that is. Whatever the color that is. He's tempted. He's right now, as he's looking at that, you can tell just by looking at him, he's using up a lot of energy in the prefrontal cortex to resist. It's not the habit on autopilot is for him to drink it. That's the habit. but he's trying to resist the habit because he's trying to use the prefrontal cortex to make it work. I'll come back to that guy in a moment. That's the chocolate. If I were a mouse, they'd be like, geez. Unfortunately, there's smarter people who built the trap for us, and they know our brains better than we do. And they know we love milk chocolate bars. And so that's kind of what it feels like. As soon as we grab onto that, snap, something happens. Something happens, and we need the strength to resist. And here's what happens. The strength to resist temptation does not come through focusing on resisting temptation. This is one of the secrets. If you want, email me, earnbreak@gmail.com. I'll give you a document made up of Bible quotes and Spirit of Prophecy quotes on how to resist temptation. But one of those concepts is, if you want to resist temptation, you don't do it by focusing on it. That's what we don't do, is saying, I must not eat this, I must not. That's not the way to do it. It's best gained by aggressive service to others. Acts of Apostles, page 105, I think. So let's talk about the psychology of distraction. When I first read that, I didn't make sense of it. I want to resist temptation, short-term pleasures, which I know are killing me. And the answer is what? Aggressive service. In other words, I change my focus not on resisting, but on something positive. That aggressive. I need to be purposeful and aggressive in serving others according to the gifts and talents that I have. Overcoming temptation is a byproduct of focusing on something greater. That's the first step to overcoming temptation, focusing on something greater. As a safeguard against temptation, the preoccupation of the mind with good is worth more than unnumbered attempts at self-discipline. Preoccupying our mind with some wonderful thing. I was talking to a fellow by the name of Jim Gall, who lost 120 pounds. And it doesn't mind me talking about him. He would tell you himself. I said to him on the phone, I said, Jim, you lost all that weight, you accomplished your goal. How did it feel like when you weren't eating sugar and no flour? How did that feel like? Weren't you like not satisfied with your meal? Like, where did that satisfaction come from that you could hang on all that time? And he said something rather profound, which I'm still writing on and thinking about today. He said, I have a satisfaction of a different kind. I have a satisfaction of a different kind. It's not the satisfaction of that sugar buzz, the satisfaction of the texture of the potato chip in my mouth. I don't have that satisfaction. But I have another kind of satisfaction, and that's kind of part of the answer to temptation, is focusing not on the temptation, but focusing on getting satisfaction from another thing to do with your gifts and talents and strengths and relationships, etc., etc. I thought that was pretty profound. So how do we resist? Number one, I'll talk about this in the next section here. How are we doing for time? It's almost time for us to stop. The answer is fulfill your purpose by finding your superpower and unleashing healthy spirituality and lovifying your life, which we'll talk about tomorrow, connection, and launching a plan to do with your morning routines and your evening routines. That's where the answer lies, where the answer lies, to be strong. So to illustrate this, let's imagine that you are this guy walking up the ladder. You're walking up the ladder because you have a goal. If you didn't have the goal, you'd be dealing with these gremlins all around you. These are representing temptations. And it's pretty easy to be tempted when you don't have a goal. For example, let's go back to Tim Hortons Donuts. Let's just say I love donuts. I'm trying to get off donuts. So I'm walking down the street, and I smell donuts, or maybe it's Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't know what it is that you smell. and it smells good. And you go in, you buy it. Okay, now a month passes by. You have determined that you want to make your life and your health better. You're walking down the same road, and you smell the Kentucky Fried Chicken or the donuts, but you're on your way to somewhere else. You've got a goal. You've got a destiny. And you say, I got no time for that. I'm on my way doing this thing. This is the thing that keeps us going to help us fight this thing. And the resistance of this thing is only a byproduct of following this thing. So what is that thing for you? That's what we'll talk about next. What is that thing for you? So when we have a goal, then we're not distracted by the temptations that come along the way. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So we don't depend on willpower, and you treat a craving as a cue to do something else. I remember when I was working in the conference office, I'd work usually fairly long hours, I guess, and one day there's a project. We had to get it done. It was due like in a week, and we had a lot of hours to put in. And I was focused. I was wanting to do it. And I remember working from noon up until 10 o'clock at night without a break. And I forgot about eating. I forgot about lunch. I forgot about supper because I was intent on getting that project done. And when I got home, I felt good. And then my wife said, "What did you eat today?" I don't even remember. I didn't eat anything. And I felt I lost weight that next morning. I was like 3 pounds lighter. And I thought, that could be a microcosm for another principle of life here. I was so distracted by some good work I was doing, I wasn't tempted to eat some other food. Now, the fact is we do need food every day, so I'm not recommending you do that. But the principle is you're focused on something. And that focus on the good thing helps you not even feel the temptation of the other thing. Temptation just bounce off your shield type of thing. And so make your environment support your goals. You know why? Here's your environment, your refrigerator. Arrange your food atmosphere in a way that strengthens the 37 trillion cells of your body. There's her food atmosphere. She's got that chocolate cake. She just loves chocolate. But she decides she's going to make a salad instead. And so I need to share with you now my story. This is not me, by the way. That's the poor girl who was a drug addict on the streets. And I'm going to share with you a bit of a story here. That's the same girl, actually. Now here's what she wrote on Twitter when it was called Twitter. Left, me, completely broken on the left. 93 pounds, living on the street, living in fear and pain, addicted to meth and heroin, ready for my life to end, and I had endocarditis twice from using. And I had a hole in my heart, and my mom took that picture when she came to rescue me. But the picture on the right, I took this picture tonight. Didn't care about angles, just wanted to show my happiness. 9 months clean. I fought hard for months in the hospital, survived heart surgery, gained 40 pounds, I got a place to live, and I have my family and my 2 cats that helped me. I posted the before picture a lot, but my story is important. Recovery is possible, and it's worth it. That really caught my attention. She writes that, and someone says, "Girl, you're wonderful." Someone else says, "We're all addicted to something. The difference is you're beating yours." So you can see the encouragement that she's getting. Here's the after picture of someone else. I don't know if you recognize them or not. Now, the before picture, I'll show you in a moment. But first of all, I'll tell you a story that puts me in the same category as that drug addict you just saw. When a few years ago, on Saturday nights, I would eat junk food. Also, when I was working in the conference office, I'd also eat junk food, and when I was traveling around, because it was a great excuse to have fast food. I loved fast food. I remember traveling with different people. I won't tell you their names or what they ate. But anyway, and so I gained weight, got a little more unhealthy. But I remember one Saturday night, I had potato chips, French fries, ice cream, something else, and I had a lot, and it was late at night. And I woke up in the morning or even in the middle of the night with this terrible stomach ache. It was awful. I said, man, wow, I'm killing myself here. I enjoyed the party the night before, but wow, look at the effects. It's almost like you have this alcohol, you go and get drunk, and you wake up with a hangover. Well, that happened again about a month later. I said, what's going on with me? But this time, I'm feeling my stomach. It's hurting. I know what I did. I did it to myself. I know how digestion works a little bit at nighttime. Your stomach is still working at nighttime, but only not as efficiently when you eat at 11:30 at night. I know that. I did it anyway. And I say to myself, never again. Never again. And as soon as I said those words, I had a flashback of my childhood. And it reminded me of my grandfather. My grandfather was an alcoholic. And I used to love to go to visit my grandmother, who happened to be married to my grandfather. And going to my grandmother's house in Halifax, Nova Scotia was better than going to Disneyland, as far as I was concerned. Loved going to Grandma's house. One night, it's about 2:30 in the morning, and I'm sleeping in one of the spare bedrooms of my grandma's house, and I hear this screeching, this yelling, swearing, words I had never heard before, sexual, violent terms. It was my 30 in the morning. Woke me up. I was scared. I was 10 years old. I was scared. Wow. Why is my granddad saying those words to my grandmother? They're violent words. Awful, 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 pornographic words that he was saying to her. And I was afraid that he was going to hit her and hurt her and kill her or something. And I didn't know what to do. I felt traumatized by this. And so I tried to plug my ears and put the blanket over my face. And finally I drifted off to sleep. The next morning my mother comes and gets me and she says, let's go. And we go downstairs and we have breakfast downstairs in a sort of like an unfinished apartment kind of downstairs. And it felt kind of terrible to eat breakfast down there. I wanted to go back upstairs with Grandma. She always used to make us wonderful food. I said, why can't we go back upstairs and have breakfast like normal? And my mother says, no. And my father also said no. So when my parents were distracted by my younger siblings, I have 2 brothers and a sister, all younger than me, I snuck upstairs. I remember walking up the wooden staircase, it's like a spiral staircase going up. And my grandfather was a carpenter. He built it all himself. And I walked through the kitchen. The kitchen was the first room after you get to the porch. And it was all dark and felt eerie. It just did not feel like normal morning. Where's Grandma? It's so silent. Nobody's talking. And I go through the darkened kitchen. I enter into the living room. And I go, like that. I see a dead body on the floor. But only he's not dead, it's my grandfather. But he looks dead. His shirt is open, he's got a big beer belly, he's got vomit all over the place. And he's lying on the floor, and his head is kind of cropped up against the bottom part of the couch, sort of like this. It looks like he can't breathe. Maybe he is dead. And his hand is just there on the floor, and about 4 or 5 inches away from his hand is an empty rum bottle. This is a scene that I see as a 10-year-old boy, and now I know why. My mother and my father says, don't go upstairs. They knew what was upstairs. And so I'm backing away. I don't want to see, I should not have ever seen this, I know why. I go down, I never tell my mother. I told her about 2 years ago that what happened, and she understood. Then my father takes us away to go to my other grandmother's house, and we come back 3 days later. My grandfather is now awake. He's sitting in his lazy boy chair, hasn't shaved in 3 days, looks pretty gruff, but he looks a whole lot better than he did before. His shirt is all buttoned up, the vomit is gone, and he's just sitting there in his lazy boy chair, and we're all gathered around him. My grandmother and the 6 of us, 2 parents and 4 children, all like in a semicircle around the lazy boy chair. And I'm sitting at the end right here. My grandfather's there. My family's like this. And I'm looking at him. They're talking back and forth. Then he stops the conversation. He looks at me. He looks right straight into my eyes. He must have known what I was thinking. And he says to me, never again, never again. And I was so relieved. He understood. He understood how that traumatized me to hear his terrible words that he said. He understood. And we went back to talking some more. But a month later, when we moved back to New Brunswick, where we were living at the time, we were visiting in Nova Scotia. I'm from there, but we left and moved and came back to visit. A month later, he got drunk again, and again, and again, and again, and eventually he died of diseases due to alcoholism. Now, here I am as an adult, and I'm hearing myself saying the very same words, never again, never again. I say to myself, am I like my grandfather? Am I an addict, but only with food? What's going on with me? I need to do some research. I need to find out what's wrong with me so I can fix it. And I found some of the answers. And we're going to take a 10-minute break, and I'll share with you some of the answers in a moment. We've got to stop right now. And so come on back. We'll go till about 5 o'clock, but we'll take a break right now. And I'll share with you kind of how I got through that and how I'm still struggling, even today. And I'm just being honest with you. A lot of us have our own story. I'm sure you have yours. And we need each other to give support to each other, to help each other, to not judge each other as we support each other in our struggles. And so come on back, and we'll try and share some good news. I know that was not so good news, but it's being honest. It's being honest and transparent. That we're real people dealing with stuff in the real world. And so we need to help each other out. And we need God to help us too. And so we're going to talk about the answers in the next hour and tomorrow. Okay? So come on back. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Hello. Well, that was a rather dour note to end the last meeting on, wasn't it? So yes, we'll give you a chance to come on in as we talk a little bit about it. But what we're trying to do here is be real about the problems and challenges that we have as we as a population, because not everybody is the same, is trying to figure out what's the strategy so that we can deal with what's killing us, but without being judgmental, but really getting at the real cause of things. And so we'll start in a few minutes, but for those of you who are here right now, we'll probably start in a minute, get people to have a chance to come in. Do you have any thoughts or questions on this so far? Do you know anybody who was like I once was? You know somebody? Yeah. Okay. We're kindred spirits. Basically, we just live in the world that we live in with sin and suffering and shame. And a lot of us are dealing with things underneath that we don't want to show other people because we're afraid of being either rejected or isolated or judged or something like that. And the fact is, we're on a journey, and no one's perfect. And we have to find our joy and happiness from progress, not from perfection. And this is why the U, the letter U of full, is there. Because when we realize we need an external power to help us with the needs that we have, that's actually very, very good news. But it's as we try to learn and get close to this external power, whom I call God, that we find out there's other principles that God gives us that helps us out. Fascinatingly, science is just catching up. with what God has already told us. It's just so fascinating in the science that we see this. So is it time to begin? Shall we begin now? Did you have your hand up?
Yep.
Yes, please.
So we talked about no oil.
Talked about
No oil.
no oils, yes.
So
That was quite a thing, wasn't it?
foods with
There are what foods?
avocado.
I'm not hearing everything you're saying. You're saying, avocado foods. Avocados is an example. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
The main principle to go by is whole foods plant-based. So if an avocado has oil, fine, it's a whole food. Eat an avocado. The oil is in the avocado because it ought to be in the avocado. That's where it needs to be, in the avocado. Same with nuts and seeds and olives. We can eat them because the oil is accompanied by the other chemicals that make up the whole food. It comes together as a complement, the way that Mother Nature made it to be. The problem is when we take the olive and we take the whatever food it may be, poppies, and we extract something from it, and then we extract something from something else, and then we put the extractions together, and we call that food. It's not food, it's a substance. And so that's what we're getting at. And so we want to make sure we're eating real food. And real food is a watermelon, it's kale, it's broccoli, it's carrots, it's pumpkin seeds, it's what else is it? It's walnuts, it's almonds, and that's food. And that's high-octane fuel. But when we take those things, those very, very healthy things, and extract something out of them, and then put it into a package, and we put some nice advertising on it, they call it food, but it ain't food. It's rehashed chemicals. It's extracted from what God supplies, what Mother Nature supplies. And so that's the big paradigm shift. Refined versus unrefined. And it's the unrefined food that North America and Europe and Australia and New Zealand and now all the rest of the world is living with. And so that's why we cannot go by the standards of the world to make decisions for our health. Cannot go by that. We just, if we do it to our detriment. We go by the standards that nature has. Eat the edible foods from nature, the way nature grows the food. And anything less than that is less healthful. And anything more extracted and more extracted and more extracted is more harmful and more harmful and more harmful. To the point you get to a -10, where you have hot dogs, wieners, and Coca-Cola, and ice cream and French fries and potato chips. They're at -10. And the +10 is the broccoli, it's the greens and the beans, and that's the +10. And so, we're not saying choose one or the other. We're saying know that what you eat is somewhere on that scale. And so most often we can do well by eating unrefined foods or minimally refined foods. That would be the answer to that. So olives, avocados, people say, don't have them, that they're fatty foods. Well, so what? They're healthy fats. We need healthy fats. We just don't need the unhealthy fats, which are extracted from its natural source. Does that make sense? Anybody else? Yes, please.
I have a dilemma. If you bought yourself organic, extra virgin, cold-pressed olive oil.
Let me stop you there. For the sake of people who are online who can't hear you, there's a man here in the audience who has a dilemma. And he's talking about extra virgin olive oil. Is that correct? Go ahead.
Organic.
Tell us your dilemma. What do you do with it? I would say, if you have to have oil, that would be the oil to have. Of all the oils that are out there, the cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, and it's kind of thick and, it's not the best for cooking, some people would say, is actually less harmful than every other oil on the market. So just know, however, it is not a number 10. It's not at 10. It's been processed, but not processed as much as the other ones. And so, again, we can't be a black and white. Just put it on the spectrum. And where it is exactly in the spectrum, I'm not really sure. But just recognize it's extra virgin olive oil, and it's been cold pressed or steel pressed or whatever it's called. And that means it's not processed as much. So just recognize that. And so if you're making steps from ultra-processed tasty toxins, and you want to make a step, that would be a step in the right direction. But if you're not having any at all, and you're always eating at 9 and 10, and then you go and you have that would be a step in the wrong direction. So that should be the answer. Which brings us to another point. The scientific studies that are put out, there's probably 1 million of them, if not more. Often they'll say, do this, and the 1,000 people they tried this on, they increased or decreased their heart attack risk and stuff like that. Always note, number one, who's funding the project. So there may be conflict of interest. That's the one thing. Number two, what are they comparing it to? And number three, what else is involved in other confounds? So when I say, what are they comparing it to? Sometimes a study will say, this group of people tried this thing and they got better. Well, the fact is, maybe that group of people were really diseased. And if you take a relatively healthy group of people and put them on the same stuff that this group had, the healthy group of people would not get better, they get worse. So it really depends on the control group and the experimental group and on the nature of each of those groups. So when you are reading something in a magazine or on the news, and there's a headline, doctors have found that so-and-so is such and such thing is good for you. Don't take that at face value. You have to look into the real study and find out what they're comparing it to, because it may not be as good as you thought. So there's more. Any other questions at all?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So with sugar and flour.
Sugar and flour.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, are you saying abstinence on refined sugar?
Yes.
Complete abstinence?
Complete.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because I always look at examples.
Yep.
My dad is a good example.
Right.
He's 96 years old.
Yes.
He's not like his son. He's very thin.
Okay.
135. His health is good, except
Right.
for now he's starting to lose some memory, but he's been healthy most of his life. But
He's sugar.
He swore by every meal should have a dessert.
A dessert. Yes.
Yes, and but he'd only have the dessert. He's not like his son who would snack in between. No. One dessert,
Right.
nothing else. One
Okay.
donut, if that.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
We have here anecdotal evidence that eating a dessert every day is not harmful for your longevity. That's what I hear you saying. He's lived a long life. He's still alive at 96 years old, and he eats sweets every day. That's what you're saying. Okay. Number one, think of the bell curve. There are still many people who are on the bell curve who can have this stuff that other people would get sick on, and they can still live longer. I would want to examine his health otherwise at 96 years old. Just to be alive is pretty good. So he's doing okay there. I take the example of George Burns.
Okay.
Anybody here know George Burns?
Yes.
He's from New York. Comedian, cigar every day, right? So if I want to live to 100 like he did, I should have a cigar every day. That's the logic. Isn't that the logic? And if I do have a cigar every day, I guarantee you that most likely I will die sooner, not live longer. So why did George Burns live so long then? What's going on here? The fact is, it's not just about one thing. It's about a number of principles. So if I were to take George Burns, or perhaps your grandfather, put it on the full power scale, and see how he's doing in all those principles, maybe, yes, he was low on the omit what is harmful. Maybe he was eating what is harmful. Sugar is harmful. There's no doubt about it. There's no argument. Sugar is harmful. Sugar found in the banana, not harmful, but sugar extracted, harmful. So here he is eating something harmful every day, and yet he lives to 96 years old. What gives? If you're only looking at what you put into your mouth as a guideline, that would be completely confusing. But the fact is, when it comes to the health message, there's more than just the food. There's the F, U, the L, L, O, W, E-R, and then the P, I missed a minute. So there's all of those things. So with George Burns, for example, he lived to 100 or 101 smoking cigars every day. Yeah, he may have been low on what is harmful. Maybe he would have gotten, like, say, 4 to 10 on that principle, that cylinder, if you to fill it up. But maybe he was high on love. Lovify your life. And the love that we have in our lives is a bigger determiner of longevity than the food we eat. And so maybe your granddad felt a lot of love. I don't know. Your father. And so I don't know if that's the case, but if you look at just one thing, it could be confusing. But recognize we're whole people, and all these principles bear into mind. And there may be other factors that we don't know about. The question is, if so-and-so lives so long on eating extracted sugar every day, do I therefore conclude that I should eat extracted sugar every day? The answer is no. Do you know why? Because general populations have shown it. So one anecdotal piece of evidence is relevant, but it's not science. It's an example. It's an example that makes me think, let's have some hypotheses to explain that. And those hypotheses are taking a look at confounds and everything else as we go. The fact is, sugar is extracted from sugar cane or beets, whatever, corn. And studies have shown beyond doubt, there's no argument anymore that sugar is a toxic substance. It's just toxic. So the fact that we're alive when we eat it is not a testament to its health. It's a testament to our body's strength to deal with poisons in our body, which is a wonderful thing because we're fearfully and wonderfully made. So that would be my answer to that, because I do understand, because we could all find examples like that. My grandfather, who I talked about, he lived until he was 86 years old, and he was an alcoholic and drank alcohol almost every day for like 60 years. And yet he lived till 86, which is a long time to live when you're an alcoholic, but yet he did that. What's going on there? I don't know. I can't explain it, but I can tell you there's more than just what we put into our bodies that determines our longevity. There's just more principles out there. There's sleep, there's exercise, there's water, there's having a purpose in life. All those things contribute to longevity. All those things. And love, which we'll talk about tomorrow, believe it or not, if you're to single out one contributor to longevity, love, social connections, has a bigger impact on how long we live than the food we eat. So let's talk about that if we want to talk about the health message. Let's talk about connecting, talk about feeling accepted, talking about feeling like we belong in a community. That's the principle of health, feeling of belonging. And I don't know, maybe your dad felt like he loved. Did your dad feel loved, I wonder? Oh, yes. So that's good. But I'm guessing you feel loved too, so that one cancels out the other one there on that. So there's something else too, and this is something, as I analyze this, and it's not just you, it's all of us have some examples. Environment. Our parents grew up in a certain environment in which temptation that we have today didn't exist back then. Junk food in particular. The junk food industry really took off in the 70s, especially in the 80s. If you grew up in the 50s, you grew up with more temperance. You didn't even need to make a decision on it. No decision needed. The blue zones. You think those blue zone people, the Loma Linda people, the people from Sardinia, the people from Icaria, Greece, Costa Rica, and where's the other one? Blue zone. What? Japan, Okinawa. The original blue zones. You know what their secret was? It wasn't self-discipline. It was environment. There were no McDonald's in the mountains of Okinawa. The natural thing to do was to do healthy things. That was just, you didn't need to work on it. It was just the environment that you're in. There's a text in Romans, is it Romans chapter 14, verse 13, or 13, verse 14, where it talks about don't set yourself up by setting your environment just so you can be tempted. I think the word in the Bible is lusts of the flesh. So our environment today is created by food giants and marketing and stuff so that it just takes our natural tendencies to want to have tasty food. And they'll give us tasty food, all right, tasty toxins. And so that may be one example, or one example of why someone who's, say, 100 years old or 96 years old, they grew up with a better environment, a more healthy environment than some of us younger people. When I say young, I know I'm not young, but still, it's all relative. Question somewhere, yes.
Can you comment on Mediterranean diet and salmon and honey, like what your recommendation is on honey?
Oh, and honey.
Honey, Mediterranean diet,
and good.
Salmon fish.
The principle still holds, whole foods, plant-based. So when we're looking at the science, I'm going to just two-pronged answer to this. Looking at the science will tell you that honey from bees in the wild is healthier than what do you call it? Sugar-fed bees in your backyard. So there's different levels of honey. This is just the science. Now, when it comes to making a decision on the science, you know what I go by? The Bible. Look at Proverbs. Proverbs says, have you found honey? You have found a good thing. Oh. But notice it does not say, have you bought honey? You've bought a good thing. You have to have found it like in the wild. And then it says, a couple chapters later in Proverbs, honey is good, but don't eat too much. Honey is mentioned twice, as far as I know, in the book of Proverbs, so close to each other. So my answer to that is, yes, wild honey. Not the kind of honey that you find in a plastic container shaped like a bear. Not that honey. That is not healthy honey. All right, if you want healthy honey or less harmful honey, go to a place where they sell it at a farm or something when the bees are wild and they're fed something that's from nature. Again, so the principle still holds, whole foods, plant-based, refined versus unrefined. So the more refined the honey, the more harmful the honey. The less refined, the more healthy it is. And if you want to make a decision, which way do I go? Go with what the Bible says. Honey is a good thing if you find it in the wild. So that would be my answer to that. Anything else? 10, 9, 8, 7, just the more refined it is, the more, it goes down the quality line. Maybe it's a 4, maybe it's a 3, maybe it's a -2, that kind of thing. But it does say do not have too much, and that goes along with omit what is harmful. Omit overeating on any one thing. That's a principle. Even, can you overeat on broccoli? I mean, who would want to? Really? See, we're saved there, aren't we? So, yeah, that would be my answer. Does that help at all? Do you have any comeback to that, or?
Yeah, I had asked also about, there is talk of diets like the Mediterranean diet.
Oh, yeah.
And salmon fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Fish is, again, the same principle applies. The science will tell us about fish, and fish that's caught in healthy waters with no toxins, fine if it has fins and scales. But why would I say if it has fins and scales? Because I happen to be thinking of a Bible principle right now, which talks about clean fish. So we can think, well, Jesus ate fish, why can't we eat fish? Well, if we ate the same fish that Jesus ate, fine. But where are you going to find it? You won't find it in the Sea of Galilee today. You can go right, I actually stayed in a hotel on the Sea of Galilee. And I had fish in the restaurant right nearby that came out of that sea. And it was kind of big flounder looking like flat fish and type of stuff. And it's interesting. It tasted okay. I can't guarantee the health of that fish or not, but it depends on what goes into the fish. And as you know, with the hierarchy of the food system, that the ones who are lower down on the food chain at the bottom of the ocean are the ones that get all the junk from the higher up animals. Think about it right now. In the ocean is a vast, vast, vast place of water, 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 water. And there are literally hundreds of millions, maybe billions of fish swimming, and they're pooping everywhere. And that kind of goes down to the bottom. And guess what's on the bottom? All right, you got crabs and lobsters and clams and whatever else lives on the bottom. And so that's why we don't have clams. One reason why we don't eat shell food that way. It's got all those toxins. So every time an animal in the ocean eats a smaller animal, then that animal gets the poisons that the smaller animal soaked up from the environment. So fish would be the same way. So the science does say salmon, for example, is good. It's healthy, eat salmon. But even salmon comes in grades of quality. Salmon from where? If you get salmon from, say, the Northern Island, Vancouver Island, it'll be healthier than the salmon you get coming out of Vancouver, the Fraser River, Vancouver. Why is that? Because there's cleaner waters up there. So there's no one answer, this is good, this is bad. You just got to know the inputs into that food that we're eating. Yeah. And by the way, I have the odd bit of fish every now and then, usually it's salmon that I have. And I always look to find out where's it coming from. Sometimes I get my salmon from James Walkus up in Port Hardy because they fish on the northern part of Vancouver Island. And by the time the salmon swim down to get to the city of Vancouver and the fishermen off of there, it's a different kind of salmon than the same salmon, same guy, but he's got different things in his body than he did when he originated from North Island. Now, if I say that, I may be explaining my ignorance about salmon actually swimming from there to there, but anyway, that's what I'm told. So that's what I'd say about fish. I'll be going to Port Hardy next week. And I'll be talking about fish and their fishermen. What am I going to say? I can't hold back the truth of the science, but neither am I going to be dogmatic and say eat no fish. It depends on where the fish come from and how healthy the fish is. And if we're not sure about the science, I always go to Revelation. I mean, not the book of Revelation, but the revealed will of our Creator. And go that way. So I do have the odd bit of salmon every now and then. But you know what? If you talk to, say, T. Colin Campbell or Caldwell Esselstyn, they'll say fish of any kind is not good for you. It's full of fat, full of toxic levels of protein. So don't have any. So it kind of goes that way. So why do we even eat it at all then if there's some question about it? I don't know. Why do I eat French fries? Well, I eat French fries because I like them. But I'm not going to be eating French fries just because I like them. But when I do, it's because I like them. So I have to make a decision. How soon do I want to kill myself? You know, when I talk about eating the junk food, stuff like that. Question in the back? Yeah, I can't hear you very well.
Yeah, just to go back to the oils.
Going back to the what?
Oils.
Oils, yes.
Yes. What's your thought on avocado oil?
Mm-hmm.
And what time of the day is a good time to begin our meals? Do you believe in food fast sometimes?
Okay, you're asking about the avocado oil. And what time of day is a good time to start eating after we fasted the night before? Regarding avocado oil, the question is somewhat solved by the same principle, whole foods plant-based. So avocados are whole foods plant-based. Avocado oil isn't whole food plant-based. It comes from a whole food, and it is plant-based. But oil itself is not whole food. It's an extraction. So I was going to say I'd eliminate it, but we have to compare it to the other oils that we might have. It's better than other oils, but it's worse than whole foods plant-based. So I would, again, there's no yes or no, it's where do you want to be on the scale of health? And so avocado oil is less harmful than, say, corn oil. It's less harmful than other oils, most other oils. Cold-pressed virgin olive oil is actually the least harmful of all. But avocado oil is at least better than some, many actually. But still, if we want to get really, really radically healthy, eliminate all oils, because they're extractions from God's health food, right? Eliminate it all, everything. No fried food, nothing. Now, the very first response, oh, how could I ever do that? I mean, that eliminates like half my food. I know it does. But it also eliminates half the disease as well. I'm kind of exaggerating by focusing on the oils. It's all refined foods. And so if you really want to do an experiment to find out if it's good for you, just get radical for a week and just see where you stand and see where you're at. Just try it for a week. Suffer for a week is what I'm saying. Suffer. That's what my wife and I call it. The only way we can do it is we've got to suffer a little bit more, but we need each other to support each other out as we go along. Soon, 2 or 3 weeks, we're starting to retrain our taste buds because different cells of the body regenerate in different rates. Our taste buds takes 2 or 3 weeks and we got brand new taste buds. Liver cells, they regenerate very, very fast. Brain cells, they regenerate but very, very slow. It can take years. And so different parts of our bodies regenerate their cells in different rates. The fact is they regenerate. So can you imagine then having a whole new set of taste buds that actually likes broccoli in 3 weeks? Imagine liking healthy food. I know some of you do and some of us do. But imagine if we really disliked unhealthy food. It'd be pretty easy to resist. And we really liked healthy food. Imagine that. Imagine that. We can do that when we kind of go through the hard work of the first few weeks of retraining our taste buds. Retraining our taste buds so that a brand new taste bud, and there's about anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 taste buds on our tongues. The older we are, the less taste buds we have. That's why older people want to have more salt and sugar and whatever else, because they're making up for the lost taste buds. But can you imagine retraining our taste buds so that when you have like a green leaf that comes from spinach on your tongue, you're going, oh, that's so nice. Wouldn't that be cool to have that? And so that we are matching our taste buds to healthy stuff. Would that be so cool? Well, it can happen, but it does take some time and some work and some FULL. Find your superpower, unleash healthy spirituality, lovify your life, and launch your plan. When you do all that together, I know I'm not explaining it to you very thoroughly because I don't have much time. Get the book or maybe talk to me later. Then you find out that after you go through that hard part with support, then you find out then you are now running on autopilot with healthy habits. And now you're not distracted by the unhealthy stuff, and you are now living your life of purpose with strength, and you're accomplishing 10 times more than you ever thought you could. Because you got the energy and the purpose and the motivation to do it. Anybody else? Yes, please?
So there's a question here about having eggs. What's
Eggs.
your view on that? And then I have 2 more.
Yes. I'm thinking of a particular quote in the book called Counsels on Diet and Foods, which says eggs from healthy fowls can actually be good if they are healthy. In other words, they're free-range hens producing the eggs. That's one thing. So that would eliminate, just saying that, eliminates about 99% of the eggs in the market. But we still have the spirit of prophecy that says sometimes eggs are good. Sometimes they are. Just not too many. Just not too many. That'd be my response to that. Some of the science, a lot of the science says eggs are good because of protein. But there's a protein craze going on these days. And everybody, as soon as they hear protein, they say, oh, it's got to be good. No, it's not just because it's protein. Eggs have a lot of protein. They have a lot of cholesterol as well. So if you have a cholesterol problem, if your body's already toxic, it may be good not to have any eggs at all. But if you don't have those problems, then a few eggs every month may not be so bad if they're from healthy hens. And healthy hens are free-range hens. They're running around the yard, and they're eating healthy grains. So that would produce a healthy egg. You can tell by the yolks. Healthy eggs produce really orangey yolks. Emaciated hens will produce, hens that are in there's 6 hens in a little cage, and there's 1 million hens, and they can't live, and they all are diseased and everything else. You look at the eggs there, the yolk is just almost emaciated yellow. And so you can almost tell the difference by the egg yolk color. Anybody else? Yes, please. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I just had a quick question. When you go to the dairy section where the butter used to be, there's a vegan, like margarine, but I don't know, it looks pretty processed to me. I just wondered what's in it.
Yeah, first of all, of course it's processed. Margarine does not grow in a bush or in a tree. You can't pick margarine off of a vine, so that'd be one thing. Secondly, to take a look at, again, the gradient level of refinement is what we're looking at. The same can be said of, say, Beyond Meat products or Impossible Meat. It's so-called meat, but it's a vegetarian meat-like substance. And so some of those are healthier than others. But you know what? When we approach it reductionistically, and we're just looking at the amount of, say, sodium in it, real meat is actually healthier than the veggie meat. But if we're looking at toxic levels of say, fats, then the healthy, the veggie meat is healthier than the real meat. And so it's not just simply saying, yeah, that's good and that's bad. Don't even think that way. Think that particular meat, that particular margarine, or that particular butter has a number of contributions that make it what it is. And it's higher in some things, and it's lower in other things. And the other product might be lower on those things and higher on the other things. And so if you're just looking at one item to say, oh, that's healthier because it has more fiber. Yeah, it has more fiber, that's great. But it also has more sugar. And so if we want to have the best, then again, whole foods plant-based is the answer. If we want to, if that's hard to take, and I understand that it would be, because our taste buds are trained to basically love tasty toxins, then have at least minimally processed. If we absolutely have to have margarine, then we can go to, say, coconut margarine, or even that would be healthier than some of the other ones. So again, it's the level of processing that determines if it's health or harm. Or, better put, determines the health or harm level that it has. And so, again, don't just look at one ingredient and say, it's got that, therefore it's healthy. It's usually not. It's usually not. It might be healthy in one area and not healthy in another area. Does that help at all? Yeah? It's kind of like, if you're going to eat junk food, eat the best junk food. But somehow just saying that doesn't sound right? But that's kind of what we end up doing. That's what we end up doing because we're convincing ourselves with a conflict of interest, which is always risky, that it's got some nice healthy product in it. In that case, just take the junkiest food and just put some, turmeric on it. Or some, it's got turmeric, I may as well eat it, And so, yeah, we have to not allow our taste buds to get in the way of our rationality. That's what we need to do. Anyway, anyone else? Yes, please. Yes, go ahead.
My question is on white flour and wheat flour in terms of bread, because sandwiches kind of form part of our meals, especially for kids, for their lunch packs. I understand that wheat bread is high in sugar because it has a high glycemic index as compared to white flour. And we know that white flour is harmful, and you've mentioned that today as well. So what would you recommend in that sense?
Silver Hills bread is one thing I'd recommend, because there's another bread on the market too, and I forget the name, but that and Silver Hills are the breads that I trust the most. Now, I recognize that Silver Hills bread, which is really among the healthiest in the world, is because the makers of Silver Hills bread are very much sensitive to health and digestion. And so Silver Hills, I'll go with Silver Hills. White flour bread is really quite tasty. And it goes down well and it's very comforting. And it feels really nice and soft and stuff, you know. But it's going to kill you. And so now you talk about wheat flour. I'm suspicious when you see wheat flour on the ingredients. I'm suspicious when I see flour on the ingredients. If I see whole wheat flour, that's a different story. Whole wheat versus flour. And so if it's whole wheat or whole grain, that's a whole lot better. It's less processed. It's still processed. It's just less so. So again, going by the science, the grainier and heavier the bread, usually the healthier it is, especially if you make it at home and don't run it through machinery to make it more refined. Now, then I come back to, again, the Bible. Bread in the Bible was actually healthy. But bread in the Bible was not made the way we make it today. Have you ever heard of Ezekiel bread? It's heavy bread. It doesn't taste as good as the other breads, but it's a whole lot healthier. So when it comes to children, sometimes we're having to compromise between what's healthy and what's tasty. And so where do we go with that? I mean, only mothers can answer the question, but I would say for sure stay away from the white bread. Absolutely. Just stay away from white bread. White anything. Anything with white flour, stay away from it. It's just going to kill us in the long run. And so at least you can not harm your children as much, because we are harming our children. Our children are being harmed all over the place. And sometimes it's government mandated for our children to be harmed by the food that they are supposed to eat. And I feel very sorry about that. I'm thinking of daycare centers right now. And so you have to compromise, because sometimes the children won't eat the real healthy stuff, simply because it doesn't taste so good. And so there's some other dynamic that needs to go on between a parent and a child to help the child appreciate what they are having, even though it doesn't taste so good. And that requires some time. So I feel respectful of a parent who's dealing with that in a child. And sometimes you can't go to the fully healthy end because it doesn't taste as good. Sometimes you can't go to the other end that tastes so great, but it's really not healthy. So you have to find that balance. Stick as close as you can to the healthiest, which is the least processed bread. Silver Hills might be an answer there. That's what I would say to that. I would say, yeah. Does that help at all? Yeah? I know there's a challenge. It's a challenge, I realize. I'd just like to say, eat nothing but whole foods, nuts and grains, and legumes, and then walk away and go home. And we'd all do it. But it's not that easy, is it? Because we have these pesky things called taste buds. We only have like 10,000 of them. And all too often, they dictate what 100 trillion cells of our bodies get. All because our taste buds want to party. And the rest of our body suffers. And so we kind of need some training, even for our children, to determine what's healthy for them or not. Anyone else? Yes, please.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a combination of pretty much what everyone's been talking about at the same time. You brought up councils on diets and foods, and you're bringing up Ellen White. So I'm just going to talk about the egg thing, then I just want to talk about the wheat and cream thing. The councils on diets and food, yeah, Ellen White does say that about eggs and stuff like that, but that book is a progressive book, meaning that these things starting to get eliminated in our diet these days because they're not the same quality as they were back then. So I felt there might have been a controversy when he said that, number one. Number two, we're talking about wheat. We had Dr. Janie Enra come up over here talking about wheat here in North America, which is all hybridized wheat. and it's turned out that it's not that healthy for you. But there is also non-hybridized wheat. So if you know, I've never been off the continent. I've been everywhere around the continent, but not off it. But I hear, like, if you go to Italy, for example, you have non-hybridized wheat, and you have all these wheat, you know, these creams and stuff like that, where all these people have all these allergies and problems like that. They don't have them over there. It's like all of a sudden you can actually have a pizza when you're told not to really have it anymore. So there seems to be like some sort of a geographical thing where we've kind of taken over, like you said, about the processing and stuff like that. So those are some of the things I want
good
to
points.
bring up.
You
Same
brought
thing
up
goes for cream, by the way.
the cream. Yeah, you brought up a couple of points there. Number one about the eggs and dairy. As we read counsels on diet and foods and counsels on health and medical missionary work and other things like that, she does say there will come a time when we will not have any dairy whatsoever. No milk and no eggs. And that time will be made clear to us. So far, it's not clear to me, except the science just basically says dairy corresponds with harm. People who have more dairy get more sick. They have more allergies, etc. So I would say that. Regarding eggs, the same thing with eggs. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I guess I have to look at the dates of when she wrote all those things. When she says to have eggs from healthy fowls, it'd be interesting to look at the date that she said that at. And then when she says there will be coming a time when we will not be able to have those because they will not be healthy for us. It'd be good to look at the dates on that as well and just recognize. She also says, learn the science, study the science. So then that kind of puts us onto not just the Bible or Ellen White, but on the science as well that aligns with the Bible or Ellen White, if you want to go biblical. Regarding the other thing you said about the wheat in North America, yes, the wheat is hybridized, and so if we can do with less wheat in our lives, I think we'd be better off. But do note this, when the studies are done, a lot of the studies are done in North America, and when studies are done on wheat and wheat products, whole wheat versus refined wheat, in North America with hybridized wheat, we still find the results of those who have whole wheat in North America are better off than those who have refined wheat in North America. So we can add that to the mix. And so worldwide, yeah, get wheat that's not hybridized. Get the real stuff. Get the original stuff as best you can. And stay away as much as you can from it. And so I guess we're looking at that same principle, whole foods, plant-based. What's the whole food? See, if we eat wheat off the stalk, you go into a field and pick the wheat, and you eat the wheat right off the stalk, that's different than when it's baked into some kind of bread or something like that. It's more processed. But however, we do have the Bible going on record, the same bread is good for you. But that was written 2,000 years ago, when bread was made differently than today. And so we have to keep that in mind too as we're eating good food. And so, again, it says in Romans chapter 14, I think, follow your conscience. Don't follow somebody else's conscience. Follow your own. You do the research. You figure out what the principles are you're going to follow by. And don't be judged by anybody else. You follow it. When you hear new information, like maybe this is new information about the wheat in North America versus the wheat, say, in Europe, well, that's good to put into our decision-making process. It might make you think, I think I'll be very careful about the kind of wheat that I eat. Given all that, I would still put more trust in Silver Hills, which I think gets its wheat from somewhere in North America, than I would in most other companies that produce wheat. I would do that. Where I'd land, I don't know, but that's what I'm thinking, Silver Hills. I just had some Silver Hills bread this morning. Thank you. That wherever Shannon is. Thank you, Shannon. So, yes. Anybody else? Yes, please.
I forgot the other thing about counsels on diets and foods. Ellen White talking about sugar. Now, this one's weird because we now have history today, not 150 years ago when she wrote a lot of that stuff, that sugar, like refined sugar, is pretty much on par with the same sort of characteristics as cocaine. That all being said, Ellen White did not eliminate sugar. If I remember the book properly, and I didn't read it that long ago, she clearly was suggesting you should have a lot less of it, but she never eliminated it. And I'm just kind of curious to know, because I have to assume, and I don't know, I'm just assuming that it was refined sugar.
I don't know what to say about that. It could very well be right. So I'd have to do my research and come back and say, oh yeah, what about this sugar? How much? This much or that much. What I'd fall back on is something that she said, and also that science says, when it's not talking about sugar, and that is whole foods, plant-based, fruits, nuts, grains, vegetables, and legumes in a large variety, and water in between meals. She says that's all we need. That itself would eliminate sugar, just by going by that principle. But before I'd conclude that dogmatically, I want to take a look at everything she says on the subject and find out what's what. That's what I would do on that one. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes. Alternative milk products. The same principle holds, whole foods, plant-based, so alternative milk is not whole food. However, it's less processed than other foods. And so again, I put that on the scale. It's not a 10, but it's not a -10. Maybe it's I don't know. I mean, I didn't measure all this. Maybe it's a 7 or a 4 or a 3 or whatever it may be. And so I would take a look at the ingredients to find out how many ingredients are in that, like nut milk or something, oat milk or nut milk or whatever, almond milk or something. And so the first thing I take a look is, okay, is it just almonds and water? Is that all it is? Well, if it was, that wouldn't be terrible. But if it's almonds and water and then something that ends in ithacin, and then it has sugar, and we kind of know that that's not as healthy and stuff like that. I used to think, I'm going from dairy, I'm going to have soy milk. And it had sugar in it or whatever, and it was like having a milkshake almost. Oh, well, it's so healthy. I was wrong. My taste buds were determining what I was going to eat. But now I do have it. I have, I think, almond milk at home, but we make sure that the only ingredient is almond and water. No other additives. And so I might put that on, say, what's that wheat cereal? It's very bland. It's like a haystack almost, like shredded wheat. Yeah, so I'll put that on shredded wheat, for example, and then put bananas, carrots. Try carrots on your cereal, see how you do. Put bananas and raspberries and blueberries, so you get wheats, nuts, and grains all in one meal, which is what I usually do. A good example, if you want to have 2 meals a day, and most of us only need 2 meals a day, unless we're lumber, in the words or something. Center one meal around fruit and the other meal around vegetables. So your fruit and grains with nuts, a mouthful of nuts. And then your vegetables and grains, and then legumes, like, say, beans or lentils. And if you have that kind of a pattern going on, that can work for some people. And that's what I default to myself. I don't always follow it, but I default to that. So, anybody else? Well, I mean, you can do what you want, but most people have fruit in the morning. In the full power plan, try for 4 fruits in the morning with some grains and then some nuts, like 7 almonds and some walnuts, just like 2 walnuts, like you don't need a lot. And then we would have, say, sesame seeds, or not sesame seeds, but pumpkin seeds and chia seeds and stuff. Always have seeds every morning of some kind or another. Pumpkin seeds, what are the other kind of seeds that we can have? Sunflower seeds and all that stuff. And so, yeah, fruits, nuts, and grains. What I have for breakfast, fruits, nuts, and grains. And then for, we call lupper, we just have 2 meals most times, my wife and I know it doesn't mesh in with everybody around the world. And so when we have our lupper, lunch and supper together, somewhere around 2:30-ish, then we'll have vegetables, 4 vegetables if we can, 3, 4, or 5, and legumes of some kind or another, lentils or beans, black beans or something, rice or something. So again, so one meal, fruits and grains. The other meal, vegetable and grains. Breakfast, add the nuts. Vegetables, you add the legumes. And then you got yourself, and a large variety. Not the same thing every day. A large variety, like having 30 different kinds of fruits and vegetables in a month to really feed our microbiome. We need a lot of variety. Anyone else?
Just a comment. I was talking with Brother Kevin at the back, and he shared that he used an app called Yuka. I don't know how familiar you are with it.
Say that again?
Y-U-K-A.
Y-U-K-A.
App, yeah. He was just sharing that it's something he uses when he goes grocery shopping, and it kind of tells, okay, this is leaning towards the less processed side.
Yeah.
And I saw Silver Hills bread on the app. I don't know if you're familiar with that app or have any recommendations for tools that we can use just to check when we go grocery shopping. This is less.
That's a very practical question. And no, I don't know of Yuka. My wife seems to know all these things, but I don't. She's got like 1,000 cookbooks. She even actually produced a few cookbooks and sold them years ago. The main principle is look at how many ingredients there are on the package. And if there's anything there that you can't pronounce, usually, probably that it's been more highly processed. And so whatever that product is you're talking about, look at how processed it is and make your judgment based upon that. Often we will make a judgment to say, yes, I'll eat what is unprocessed, whole foods, plant-based, and what is minimally processed. You determine what minimal is for you. But the less processed there is, the better off our cardiovascular system will love us. And so if we can go radical. Now, we talked about Frances Greger, saved her life. Everything, she just gave up almost everything and just had only fruits, nuts, grains, and vegetables and legumes. That's all she had. But that gave her 36 more years. So how radical is that? So she obviously loved life more than she loved some particular old foods that she used to have. So I guess the principle is how many ingredients does it have? And what are those ingredients and how processed are they? Yes?
So one more thing, supplements.
Oh, supplements?
B12s or B6?
Oh, good question, yeah.
B12s or B6s?
Yeah. T. Colin Campbell answered this question quite well. With the exception of B12 and vitamin D in North America, especially north, like in Canada, those are exceptions where we might need B12 and vitamin D supplements. Might. Get your doctor to check your blood so that you know, because you may not need them. But we're more likely to need vitamin B12 and vitamin D living in the Northern Hemisphere as we are in Canada. There's one doctor in Terrace, British Columbia, who checked his patients for vitamin B12. Or was it vitamin D? I forget which. And he said almost every single one of his patients was deficient. So he just recommends the vitamin. He's in Terrace, BC. But get your blood checked. Get a blood panel done and find out. Now, after having, with those exceptions, possible exceptions, T. Colin Campbell says, whatever supplements you think you're getting in that bottle, you can do better by eating the apple. You can do better by eating the carrot or the spinach or the kale, or you'll do better if you get that substance, that chemical, within the setting that it grew in the first place. So for most of us, we don't need the vitamin E tablets, the vitamin Cs, unless your doctor recommends it to you because you have a particular situation. Generally speaking, we don't need supplements beyond the possibility of vitamin B12 or vitamin D. Don't need them. We already get them in our food. If we're eating the food, we're getting the supplements there. Okay. And they're not even called supplements. They're called regular food. It's in the package. It comes in a package. So, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it earlier, but vitamin C was the example. We go to the store, we get these vitamin C tablets, put a little bit of sugar in there, tastes like orange Kool-Aid or something. I mean, I could have a whole bottle of those things. It tastes so good. But the fact is, I'm paying a lot of money and just urinating it right out of my body because the body doesn't need it. We don't need that. Just eat an apple, eat an orange, eat a grapefruit. And we'll do, literally, in the case of vitamin C, 263 times better than having a vitamin C capsule. Just eat the fruit. You get a whole lot. Your body knows what to do with it. Your body knows whether to use it or to store it or to get rid of it. Our body knows what to do. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. Our body knows these things. We don't need to go to manufacturers to say, this came from natural food source. You know what that means to me? It's unnatural. This came from nature. Oh, really? Came from nature? Then why doesn't it look like a carrot? If it came from nature, it would look like a carrot or an apple or a grapefruit. If it comes in a powder of some kind, I don't care if they say it came from natural sources. That means it's not natural. That means they extracted it from natural sources, which means it's refined. And so that's the principle you go by. Now, I don't mean to be burdening you with this, but hey, you decide what's good for you. But when you decide what's good for you, keep the science in mind. And then you decide how close you want to come to that 10. And probably none of us, but few of us will be at a 10 all the time. That's fine. God still loves you, and I love you, and we all love each other. But if you can make that progress by starting with, just take simple steps first. And you can even make a decision now. Okay, what am I going to eliminate from my diet? I can eliminate it all. I couldn't take it. I'd die if I can't get a hamburger tomorrow. You know, whatever it is. Pick something. At least you're making progress. Pick something. And say, no more Coca-Cola, right? No more whatever. I mean, it's just drinking poison, I have to say. So if you want, just go on the internet and say, what are the 10 most processed foods going on? Let's see, processed meat, Coca-Cola, hot dogs, usually things with cheese in them and baked goods or something like that. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, please. Yes? Microphone coming your way. Time for us to go, isn't it? I never even got back to my story yet, did I? Well, that's all right.
What's your advice on chickpea flour, almond flour, cassava flour, all these flours?
Yes.
And also you mentioned rice. Is it better wild rice or white rice?
I know. Okay, here's the truth. There are pros and cons. There's pros and cons on white rice versus brown rice. Brown rice actually has some small degree of toxins in it. But white rice is more toxic because it's refined. It's white. I still go with brown rice. And I forget the name of that toxin. The fact is that toxin doesn't rise to the level of hurting our bodies as much as other kinds. The glycemic level is something to take a look at as well, the glycemic index. That's the speed at which sugar affects your system and gets dissipated into your system. All the other kind of flours you're talking about, I'm not an expert on that. I still go by the rule, how refined is it? I go by that rule. And recognizing something that I think was you, Leslie, you said, wheat itself in North America may have had more treatments done to it and more hybrids than some of the other flours that you're talking about. Yeah, you have the processing, which is of concern, but then you have the hybridization as well. So if you have the chickpea flour, which, boy, I haven't heard of that very much, and you turn that into flour, it may be processed, and less processed if you do it at home, but it may not be hybridized. And so it's not easy to say, yeah, that's bad and that's good. It just depends on what the contributions are to that product. So I don't know. I'd experiment to be a scientist about it. Try feeding it to somebody and try and stop feeding it to somebody and see what changes. It's pretty hard to determine that because everything else has to be the same. You only change one thing, and that one thing, what is that thing that makes a difference or not? So in the end, I would give you a very solid I don't know, but that would be the things I would consider in trying to make that decision. Number one, is it processed? And the answer is yes, it's processed. Already it's not at a 10. It's at a 9 or a 7 or a 6, whatever it may be. And then the other considerations as well factor into it. So that's why I go with that. Yeah.
We are thinking we are eating
Sorry?
We are thinking we are eating good using these flours, but
Oh, yeah, yeah. Again, is it whole food? And is it plant-based? Well, it's plant-based, but is it whole food? No, it's not whole food. So if it's not whole food, it's not the best food. It may not be, it's not the worst food, but it's not the best. And so it's easy to say, yeah, here's black and white, this is good, this is bad. I'm not going to say that because the science doesn't support that. It is more good or more bad depending on what's done to it and what it really is in the first place. And so you start with the principle, the very first principle is it whole food? And does it grow that way? And the answer is, in this case, no, it does not. So already you take away some points for it not being a whole food. But you don't take away as many points if it were Coca-Cola, which is not food at all. And so again, it comes on a spectrum. It's not here or here, it's somewhere in between. And so you got to choose where you want it to land, what you're satisfied with. And so in the end, I don't know particularly about that. Number one, if it just has the one ingredient, that would be helpful. Just like chickpeas, is that the only ingredient? If you take chickpeas and dry them and then grind them into a powder at home, that's different than if it's processed in a manufacturer where you have machines doing it for you, which is unnatural. So these are all the things I would kind of factor into my decision on that. I would try my best to stay away from anything refined, recognizing that sometimes I will give in and be something refined, but I'll try my best to say, if it's refined, I'm not going to eat it. I don't want to eat it. I want to, as the Bible says, eat for strength. Eat for strength. That's what I would do on that one. Yeah, sorry, so I couldn't be more clear on that one. Anyone else?
Okay, I think we have two more, and then...
Okay.
Yeah.
What is good for you, or better, 3 meals a day or 2?
Yeah, 3 meals a day or
and
2.
And the interval also, the
yes.
timing. Thank you.
For most people living in North America, 2 meals, because we are living a sedentary life. If you're living a more active life, you're moving around, especially athletes, 3 meals a day. But for a sedentary lifestyle, 2 meals are mostly what most people would actually need. And much beyond 2 meals, actually, we might be eating too much. We're just being more, eat food because it's cultural good to eat it, all that stuff. So yeah, I used to eat 3 meals, now I mostly eat 2 meals a day, as best I can. So again, it's up to you, and it depends on your activity level. That would be the answer to that. Yeah. Question?
Okay, my question is, how severe would cosmetic?
Can't hear you very well.
How severe is cosmetic to our health?
How severe is cosmetics? Cosmetics. Oh, I see. Some cosmetics are harmful and some aren't as harmful. It depends on which cosmetics seep into the skin and therefore into the bloodstream. Usually the cosmetics which are less harmful cost the most. Now, beyond that, I can't say too much. I was reading some research on this just within this last month. And I wish I could remember the name of that particular cosmetic. I think it was skin cream or something. And it cost like $60 just for a little jar or something like that. I would sooner pay the $60 and then get something for $10 and then have some toxins go into my face or my eyes or whatever it may be. So I go plant-based if I could, natural-based, not synthetic materials. Same with suntan lotion as well. Plant-based suntan, natural suntan lotion.
Toothpaste?
Deodorants as well, yeah. So our skin is porous, but our skin is also the first line of defense for our immune system as well. And so, we can take some things. We can take things, but the more natural, the better, and the least, the better, I would say. I try to keep back on cosmetics myself. I don't think, I say that as a joke because I don't do cosmetics. But I know that a lot of people do. And so again, the answer is similar. If you can get more natural, less products, less chemicals, the better it is, because it's going to soak in. Even if you write with a pen on the back of your hand or on your palm of your hand like I used to, the ink will soak in a little bit and then get into the bloodstream and stuff like that. But usually we can handle it. Usually we can handle it. But if it's every day, and a lot of these studies are something that's given every single day, it's much more concerning than if it's just something that's an anomaly once a month or something like that. Our bodies, livers, kidneys and our skin can usually take toxins in small doses, and we can handle that pretty good. Anybody else? All right, I would start up my story again, but I guess I have no time. The point is, the answer, we'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow at 11:30, we're going to have some people here taking your blood pressure if you want to do that. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about 2 more of the principles of full power, and I will finish up the story of today tomorrow. See how we do that. Ordinarily, to go through all the material would probably take about 2 weeks, and usually I've done that. Just came from a Soyuz, did it in Kelowna, took a month in Kelowna. I was over in another place 2 weeks, 3 weekends. So 3 weekends, and then 2 days in the middle. Usually that's what I do. But it's pretty hard for us to commit that long, so a good high-impact weekend, Friday, Sabbath, Sunday, is mostly what I end up doing. But I find that it's not really enough. And here's the most important point, I would guess. When we're going through this education, and a lot of you, it's not education because you know it already. You're getting a few extra little bits of knowledge, a few reminders, a few bits of encouragement. The most important thing that's going to happen to you is what you're going to do the next day after I'm gone. That's the most important thing. So I'll be leaving on Sunday. Monday, you could start your 28-day full power plan on Monday. You can start. And if you want, you can go to the website, fullpower1.com. You can download the dashboard, and you can mark yourself off every day for 28 days and see how you're doing on each of those principles. And give yourself a number. You got 8, got 7, got 4, add them all up. And then I love to have that out online where it just does it for you automatically, and someday I will. But the most important thing that you're going to do from this information this weekend is what you're going to do on Monday morning. So start maybe planning ahead. What do I want to do Monday morning? But most of you don't think I got to do it all. It's a losing battle for most of us. But start with something simple that you know you're going to accomplish. Just pick one thing. Pick one thing. You could say, I'm going to promise myself I'm going to have more water, depending on my weight. I'm going to promise myself no more Coca-Cola. Exchange Coca-Cola and have water instead. You can do that one thing, and all the other junk food that you're eating normally, continue with that. And then you'll get inspired by, say, a week or 2 later, you know what, I think I'm going to add one more now. I think I'm feeling better, and you add on and add. So it may end up taking a whole year. But do it in a way that you're going to succeed. In the end, it's the big picture that counts more than the little things. It's the big things. And so think of the full power principles. I wish I could give you the full power summary in a sheet of paper. I can give it to you. Just email me. It's in the book. It's in the workbook. But if you don't want to pay for that, that's fine. Email me. Just say, I'd like to have a summary of the full power principles. And with that summary will come these little questions. How am I doing on the F? How am I doing on the U and the L? And you can mark yourself there. And so you have the summary of the principles, and the questions about how you're doing on each of the principles, and that'll be kind of like what am I doing? And then the vitality test, you can get that in the back. Just pick it up. Okay? So I think we'll close right there. Should I close in a prayer, or is someone else going to come up and close us up? Yes, all right. Thank you very much. May God bless you all.
Yeah, it's been such a blessing to listen to Dr. Breck. I'm sure we still have many questions, but many have been answered as well. It's a marathon. We take one step at a time. And we hope to be there and achieve the full power series implemented in our lives. And take our health back naturally. That has been our theme since the last 2 weeks. I want to remind us that tomorrow we start at 11:30, just like Dr. Brecker said. We'll start with the health check, blood pressure check, weight. Here we have a weighing scale that can measure your fat, mass, and water. And then we'll have lunch after that we'll have Dr. Breck speaking, then we'll have lunch at 12 p.m., which we need to register. So if you haven't registered, please register with. Who are we registering with? Who is doing the registration? Okay, yeah. So then we'll have another session after that. It's been a long day, a day of blessings. We are grateful to God, and I'd like us to finish with a word of prayer. I'll say a short prayer, then we can break and be able to go home. Father in heaven, we thank you for the message. We thank you for the speaker. We thank you for the energy, the spirit, the dedication that he has spoken to us since yesterday evening till this point. And as he goes home to rest, rejuvenate him so that tomorrow he can have the motivation to continue educating us on taking our health back and overcoming many of the chronic diseases that we are on track into getting into the zone of chronic diseases. I pray that you shall give us the humility, the discipline. You shall give us new desires and a new mindset to be able to implement these changes in our lives. As we depart from here, be with us and protect us for the entire night, and let's all meet here together in the morning, ready and thirsting for more information, for more knowledge, and more motivation to implement the teachings. In the name of Jesus Christ, I believe and pray.
Amen. Thank you.